And good evening to you. Welcome to News 360 and it's live news up here at Desawe in Kanda. My name is Alfred Okansi.
And I'm Natalie Fort. A look at the top stories this evening.
News 360 headlines is brought to you by
5-member ad hoc committee set up by Speaker of Parliament to probe the cash for seats allegations. Clears Trade Ministry of wrongdoing.
Meanwhile, minority in Parliament staged a walkout ahead of the debate.
Also ahead this evening, Inspector General of Police launches police transformation agenda to increase public confidence in the service.
Now, can you imagine walking on a pavement made of recycled plastic waste? We bring you a special report.
And in business this evening, Institute for Fiscal Studies commends government's plan to hedge the country's oil imports.
And on the foreign front, South Africa suspends President Jacob Zuma's State of the Nation address.
We've got the details of these stories for you here on News 360. We're streaming live all across the world on 3news.com as well as TV3 Ghana on Facebook. On to our very first story this evening. Government has taken delivery of a fleet of 34 armored VIP vehicles and 100 Toyota Corolla cars at a cost of $8.8 million. This follows the renegotiation of the terms of a contract signed by the previous government to procure 43 armored presidential salon cars. The NDC-led government ordered the supply of 43 specialized vehicles at a cost of $9.1 million, barely 8 days to handing over of power. Reports say the luxury cars are capable of firing rounds of ammunition and can withstand the effects of a hand grenade. Although the New Patriotic Party's administration attempted to abrogate the contract signed with the suppliers, Amalgamated Securities, it was unsuccessful due to certain clauses in the contract. Rather, terms of the contract have been renegotiated, resulting in the reduction in the number of vehicles initially ordered from 43 to 34.
Government has accepted the VIP fleet of vehicles. That government is bound by the terms of the contract signed with Amalgamated Securities Limited, that abrogating the contract may incur significant liabilities for government.
At a press conference in Accra, the Minister of Information, Mustafa Hamid, assured the public of government's resolve to protect the public purse while ensuring value for money.
And it's because we are not assuming anything. That is why we believe that it is important to subject every contract to scrutiny, to satisfy ourselves that indeed we are giving out Ghana's money for what it is worth.
Now, the police transformation program has been launched in Accra with focus on enhancing public confidence in the Ghana Police Service. Welfare of personnel is paramount in the 10-year strategic plan as short and long-term strategies are being introduced to equip the service.
Globally, transformations require belief in the vision and commitment to every step along the way, respecting achievable benchmarks. I have no doubt at all that the IGP, with his guiding coalition, will pull this through. The Ghanaian public cannot wait to see you achieve your key performance indicators.
We believe that the transformation agenda will be successful only when the officer on the ground is doing his best. So, he needs to be taken care of as far as his career development is concerned. The safety gear also comes into issue. Is he properly attired so that he can go out there confidently? Protective gears, vehicles, weapons, helicopters, boats for Marine Department. Their plans are far advanced, and we hope that very soon we're going to get what we require for the officer on the ground.
It is in this regard that I encourage private entities traditional authorities, and indeed the local government authorities to take interest in policing activities in their localities and also give a helping hand in this noble cause.
Meanwhile, some security analysts have lauded the police service for the initiative, describing it as positive reform to combat new dimensions of crime. Other security experts called for continuous support from government in the midst of political change, which they foresee as a possible inhibiting factor to the success of the program.
I feel that everybody has seen the need to change the direction of policing, not just in Ghana but in our region. And Ghana Police Service, as one of the leading police services in our region, have a responsibility to also show the way, not just in Ghana but in other African countries. But I'm cautiously optimistic because it is also need to be backed by political will to provide the resources needed to ensure that it comes to fruition.
I think there's an increasing recognition from the political side that if they don't push this agenda, if they don't resource police officers as the frontline institution, irrespective of the security that they have to protect them, they will also be victims. So there is a nuanced political shift to recognizing that security is the fulcrum around which all our rhetoric about development also revolves.
So this is to tell the police personnel themselves that when they work hard, people will come to accept them more than what is happening today. But I am happy of the way government is handling the Ghana Police Service.
I think we need to make sure that we continue to encourage the idea of a transformation and we continue to talk about it. So when leadership changes in the police service, we continue making those improvements. When government or the party changes, we continue making those improvements. And again, the officer behavior and attitude, we continue to encourage them to do better.
It is something that probably should have started 10 years ago. If you look at it, look at the immense publicity generated out of the launch alone. That alone tells you that the current administration probably is going to take us to the next level of how the security of this nation should look like.
Away from the police and straight into Parliament, because the report by the 5-member special committee which investigated the levy and collection of sums of money by the Ministry of Trade and Industry from exported businesses has concluded that there is no merit in the allegations leveled against the Ministry of Trade and Industry and consequently clears the ministry of any wrongdoing. The Speaker has since referred the matter to the Privileges Committee for further investigations.
Chairman of the committee, Kwesi Ameyaw-Kyeremeh, who read the report, said after their probe, they found no evidence to support the allegations made by some members of the minority that the Trade Ministry imposed levies on attendance of the Ghana Expatriate Business Awards event in Accra. Kwesi Ameyaw-Kyeremeh indicated that evidence of the mover and seconder of the motion was full of speculations and the committee would not pander to it. The conclusions of the report also noted that the Trade Ministry acted within the law by issuing General Counterfoil Receipt (GCR) in receipt of the payments. The report further recommended the need to have a second look at a recall of Parliament, adding the recent recall of members was needlessly invoked. The chairman concluded saying there was no merit in the allegations and asked that the House adopt the report. The Trade Minister, Alan Kyerematen, wanted the minority charged with causing financial loss to the state.
The image of our dear country had sunk so low as a result of this matter. Are we now to believe that the judgment of Honorable Okudzeto is now the litmus test for judging the image of our country? He went further to make specific allegations of extortion, which he was neither able to prove nor sustain.
The Speaker in his ruling condemned the act by the minority and referred the matter to the Privileges Committee for further investigation.
Fishing interrogatories, as they are called in law, fishing interrogatories, are frowned upon by courts of competent jurisdiction throughout the world. An allegation must not simply be thrown into the air and then you ask Parliament to go investigate. They must be substantial and not an abuse of due process.
Counsel for the Millennium Excellence Foundation says the minority action has caused the foundation loss of revenue and affected investor confidence.
Despite the untruths now having been laid to rest, and though much gladdened by its exoneration, my clients have found that this acquittal has come at a heavy cost to its hitherto unsullied and unquestionable reputation. This is not to mention the heavy cost that these false allegations have caused the country also to suffer in terms of the commitment of foreigners to making of foreign direct investments, market confidence, and the image of the leadership of the Republic of Ghana on the international platform.
Well, the minority in Parliament staged a walkout before the debate of the Cash for Seat report could begin. Now, the minority leader, Haruna Idrisu, said members were not given copies of the report on time to enable them peruse it for effective debate.
Mr. Speaker, this particular paper of the committee's report was late, and therefore 48 hours have not lapsed. And I am at a loss why we are in a hurry on a matter of great public interest. Mr. Speaker, I got my copy of the report only this morning. And all members got their copies only this morning. Mr. Speaker, 146-page report. In the interest of transparency and accountability, this matter cannot be railroaded. I'm holding with me here the verbatim report of the committee, a submission of the Comptroller and Accountant General of Ghana. I'm interested in improving systems and processes. A very lucid and succinct point the Comptroller made. I'm yet to find it in the report. I'm yet, very important from Comptroller, it's not in the report. I need to read. So, Mr. Speaker, this report is one-sided by the chairman, members of the minority. I'm sorry, Mr. Speaker, will be guided. You can proceed with the motion, but the minority is unable to participate in this process.
The minority side then staged a walkout.
The Honorable Dr. Dominic Ayine was with them. They had considered everything together. When it came to considering the draft report generated by the chairman, the Speaker, he took the draft report and for 2 days he went missing. The committee went looking for him to come and share his thoughts. He disappeared. They called him, sent him text messages. He refused to respond. When he did, after 12 midnight, on Wednesday, it was only to tell them that his laptop had crashed. Cock and bull stories. Clearly, they wanted to hold this house ransom.
The minority later held a news conference.
The Secretariat had done a summary of all the evidence, and we're going through page by page. Now, the chairman of the committee was absent on that day. When he
later held a news conference.
The Secretariat had done a summary of all the evidence, and we're going through page by page. Now, the chairman of the committee was absent on that day. When he returned at 2 p.m., and that was after lunch, he presented me with a 17-page document. And that was, in his words, a draft report that he wanted me to look at. So we decided we're going to meet back at the hotel at 3:30. I got there at 4. Neither the chairman nor the two other honorable members of the majority were present. And the clerk of the committee and her staff are my witnesses. They were in the conference hall where we held our meeting. And when I walked in there, I asked them where the majority members of the committee were. And they told me they were asleep. I did not have the luxury of sleep. So I went back to my office at East Legon and decided to compare their conclusions of fact with the transcript of the evidence. I realized, not surprisingly, but to my dismay, that they had deviated substantially from the findings of fact on record and watched on national television.
The minority is certainly not very pleased there, and we should note that prior to the committee reports, the final reports, there was a report put together by the minority detailing their take on this particular issue, specifically Deputy Minority Leader James Kluche Aveji and Dr. Ayini, who's a member of the committee. And we're juxtaposing the two reports by the minority and the final report, or the committee report. First of all, tagging it as minority versus the committee findings, because these are actually two separate reports, and the minority, in fact, wanted their separate reports also highlighted prior. To investigate the alleged levy and collection of sums of money by the Ministry of Trade and Industry from expatriate businesses during the recently held Ghana Expatriate Business Awards in Accra. Now, I'm going to run us by what the committee report says on this issue and what the minority report says on this issue as well. The committee report states, "We are unable to find that the Ministry of Trade and Industry imposed levies as captured in the motion." It further said that they were unable to find these specifically because there was no evidence to support the claims of the imposition of a levy by the Ministry of Trade and Industry. And the minority report goes on to say, prior, way package was designed and executed conforms to Muntaker's conception of a levy. To better explain it, the manner in which the sponsorship package was designed and executed conforms to Honorable Muntaka Mubarak's report and conception of the levy. This is the use of the word levy as against collection of the monies being referred to here. And secondly, to inquire whether any payments were made and received, and if so, how disbursements were effected and whether such disbursements offended any law. The committee report says no controversy as to whether payments were made and received by the Ministry of Trade and Industry, totally clearing them from any wrongdoing. While the minority report goes on to say President of the Republic was the center of attraction and that payment for seats determined the distance of the payer's seat from the presidential high table, saying that the presidential high table was the focal point in this particular program. And thirdly, if so, how disbursements were effected and whether such disbursements offended any law. The committee reports, the final report says, Ministry of Trade and Industry acted within the confines of Regulation 28 of the Financial Administration Regulation and thereby cleared of all wrongdoing. The minority report says the Ministry of Trade and Industry breached the law on public financial management, particularly the Financial Administration Regulation. So this just goes to juxtapose and show the different cases here being put forward by the minority report and by the committee or the final report.
Thank you, Natalie, for running us through the summaries of the two. But I've been joined in studio by the Honorable Kwesi Amyar-Kyereme. He is the Majority Chief Whip, but as a matter of fact, the chairman of this 5-member committee that was established to look into this, and also the Honorable Dominic Ayini, who is also a member of that particular committee that was established. Good evening to you. Thank you very much for joining us. Now, it's great to have you. Let me start off with you, Chairman. I mean, your reign has come to an end, though, but really...
Once a chairman, always a chairman.
Well, but one of the reasons the minority gave in walking out today was because they did not get this report on time. Exactly when did you give it to them?
Oh, thank you for having us in the studio. The report was laid on Friday, yes, towards the end of business of the day. I think it was the last business we did on that day. So we took it to the printing room. We have a printing room.
Right.
they print all reports of the Parliament. As of yesterday, they started in the morning. They have a giant machine that can duplicate several copies at the same time, and they sort at the same time. In the morning, I got the information that it was faulty. So they were using a manual machine, and they were manually sorting. Later, they got the giant machine back on track.
I see.
So as of close of business yesterday, or around 4:35, they had done over 200 copies and taken them to the mails room. So the rest were to be done overnight. So very early in the morning, the copies were available.
My
I
specific
think some
question,
members who were around towards the evening got their copies.
I wanted to find out specifically exactly when they had it, because we need to be clear.
I will not be able to tell you exactly when they had it, because when reports are distributed, they are put in your pigeonholes. When you go to pick it, it's when you had it.
I see. So Honorable Dominic Ayine, when did you have your report? Because one of the reasons you gave for walking out was because you did not have this report early to peruse it, to contribute meaningfully to this debate.
Oh, thank you very much. In my case, because I am a member of the committee, and I was very curious to see what the majority had put in their report,
right.
I called the clerk of the committee towards the close of the day, and as chairman has said, by the close of the day, they had certain copies ready.
Right.
So when I called her around 5:30, she told me that in 30 minutes, I could send someone to actually pick a copy for me.
That was yesterday.
That was yesterday. Mm-hmm. So I sent someone, I called the dispatch rider around 6 o'clock, and then he brought me the report. He brought the report to my office around 7:30 in the evening. And I called Honorable Aveji and asked him whether he had a copy of the report, and he also said he had left Parliament and he was going to call the clerk to see if it can be delivered to him. This was at the close of the day. Mm-hmm. So majority of members, I'm sure, did not have their copies by the close of day yesterday. And most of them would have gone to their pigeonholes to pick the copies this morning. And that is why, you know, we
I listened to the majority leader, and I think that, Chairman, you would corroborate with the majority leader's point that you were trying, I mean, the committee was trying to get to you, Honorable. Your phone was off. You kept saying your battery was low. At the point, your laptop, at the point, your prepaid credit has finished, and so you didn't have light in your house. Was it really the case that you were just giving us, the Honorable Osemensachi Bosu, that you're putting cock and bull stories just to prevent the committee from getting to you?
That is not true. Chairman here has been my classmate since 1990. We finished law school together in October 1995, and he knows me. I'm a very diligent person. I'm very meticulous. And throughout, I tried as much as possible to keep Chairman informed of progress. I must tell you that when I got his report, it took me by surprise. At Wednesday in the afternoon, when he gave me the 17-page document and said this was a draft report that he had prepared, right, I told myself that I needed to respond to some of the findings of fact that he had made. Okay, these were, remember that these were not the findings of fact of the committee as a whole. Right. He had prepared a draft. And our standing orders, order 210, sub order 1.
You say is a clerk?
No, it's not that. I'm trying to say that order stipulates that members of a committee may generate reports for consideration by the committee. So it is, and then priority is given to the chairman's report. And so when he generated a report, I looked at the orders and I said, well, priority is given to his report.
Right.
But I'm also entitled to generate a report. That was the basis of my work.
I see. No, you see,
but you see, now, because I trusted Chairman as a colleague, as a former classmate, and I kept telling him the details of any frustration or challenges that I faced. Those are the ones that are now being detailed as excuses that I was giving and trying to hide away from the committee. I had no reason. If I went home to sleep, I would tell him that I went home to sleep.
But really, at what point did there be a point of departure? For the committee members, so that, because we watched you sit at a committee on television probing this matter.
Yes.
Now you come out with two different reports. I mean, what happened? Honorable.
Thank you. At the conclusion of the hearings, both public and in camera, we met in my office, 3 of us, myself, Dr. Ayine, and Yaboabin Asamoah. The other 2, Dr. Sibe Yaboa and James Kruche Abeji, were not able to make it. We identified the issues arising out of the whole process. And then we agreed that we will need to meet at a later date to go into the evidence to freshen up the issues. So we decided that we'll meet at MJ Grant on the 29th.
Right.
29th and 30th. James Kruche Abeji had traveled out of the country. He was not here.
I see.
So we met Monday in the morning. We worked up to the evening around 6 o'clock. And then we took a break.
Right.
Reconvened later in the evening and continued to about 11.
Right. I get the point. You see, what I want to find out from you right now is that now the people of Ghana were hoping that we will go to bed knowing that Parliament has done a good job. Okay, now we are treated with a situation where we have 2 reports. You were a fact-finding committee. What facts are we supposed to deal with?
My brother, allow me to develop the point. If you cut me short,
really,
the people who must have the benefit of what has happened will not get it. So we worked for the first day. Second day, we all agreed that we wouldn't be able to meet the reporting time of 31st, which was Wednesday. And we were on Wednesday, that was Tuesday. So I even decided, I told them that all of us must go to Parliament to make a case for an extension. But the majority, that is, said, no, you go as a chairman to talk to the Speaker and the leader for an extension, whilst the rest of us work. So I left them, and they worked. I returned around lunchtime. We had lunch. After that, I gave them distributed. I didn't give him alone, to all of them, a draft report that I had developed. It was a draft.
I see.
And that was to serve as a guide for our subsequent meeting, because we had finished considering the summary of evidence. That was when my brother here had a visitor, an architect friend, and he said he was leading him to his office. He will be back. I said we couldn't meet at 2 as agreed, so we should make it 3. So he left. And we never saw him again.
So,
he never came back.
That's why I'm having.
He never came back. So let me also correct this impression. We don't have 2 reports. We were set up by Parliament, the Speaker. We have 1 report before Parliament, and that is the report I laid and I spoke to today. Well, the report you are talking about is of no consequence. It's not before Parliament.
The particular business entity in question, the expert, that's the Millennium Foundation, is saying that your actions have brought a lot of problems to them, and they are going to actually take you up to pay for their losses.
Well,
because of these allegations,
should
not been able to prove.
I can't wait to see their statement of claim. You know, the rate of summons and the statement of claim. And I'm sure we'll all have our day in court. And I'm sure I'll come out of that court smiling. Because they came before the committee, perjured themselves, lied before the committee, forged
what do you
documents.
Say they lied before the
they lied before the committee. I mean, there's evidence on record. No, there's evidence on record of Ashim Morton, all right, presenting documents to the committee that he had changed, he adopted in order to deceive the committee.
He adopted documents.
Yes. So, for instance,
and the committee admitted this particular here.
Well, let me say this. Let me say this. He had there was
you use the word doctored, meaning that he had forged a document.
Yes.
And Chairman, this came up.
And let me tell you why I'm saying that. Let me finish before, so that at least if he's answering, Ghanaians will have the benefit of the facts that I'm putting forward. Basically, what he did was, There we admitted a document tendered in evidence as MOTI 6, which was a letter written on the 6th of April, 2017, on the so-called, top expert trace awards. MOTI 6 did not have on it the original stamp of the ministry as having received it. It did not have on it any minute by the minister to whom it was addressed, and so on and so forth. So I asked the minister if I could get the original. When the original was brought, I noticed that he had signed the MOTI 6, right, as president, right, with a different signature. He had also signed, he had also been designated as president at the top corner. And then in the original, he signed as chairman. Okay. All right. And then at the top corner, he was chairman and founder. All right. So basically, MOTI 6 was an afterthought forged by him in order to deceive the committee to think that he was the president referred to
I don't
in
know
the
a bit
package.
about the forgery bit, and I'm going to leave this part because the committee would get into it a bit further, because I know the speaker has referred this matter to the Privileges Committee to look into it. I'm really hard pressed for time, and we're going to get to subsequent bulletins on it. Dominic Ayine is a member of the 5-member committee that was established. Kwesi Ameyao, chairman, is a member of Parliament for Sunyani's constituency, majority chief whip, and the chairman of that ad hoc 5-member committee that was established. I'll be back shortly with some more stories. So stay.
Thanks for staying with us on News 360. Let's do business with me, Nanekia Mensah-Brampa. Now, as Ghana struggles with how best to manage plastic waste, it's been identified that it can be used to produce pavement blocks, which could last for over 100 years. Government has promised its readiness to support the innovation to provide more jobs for the youth.
In West Africa in general and Ghana in particular, the issue of collection, management and disposal of plastic waste continues to feature prominently whenever the issue of sanitation is raised. It's estimated that only 2% of the about 22,000 tons of plastic waste generated annually in the country are recycled, with the remaining 98% finding its way to landfill site and into drains, water bodies and other open places, including the street. The lack of political will have made it difficult for Ghana to make a definite decision as to whether or not to ban the use of plastics as a means of solving the country's sanitation problem. Since they are not biodegradable, it is difficult getting rid of them if not recycled, and that is where innovation is key. An inventor, Nelson Boateng, has found a better way of recycling plastic waste product, converting them into pavement blocks, and has been producing for the past 6 months.
If I don't do something, in one day, those huge money that the government is spending in cleaning the environment, it will come to a point that he will decide to ban the plastic. And if he ban the plastic, I have over 600 workers, both directly and indirectly. That is how come I came up with this idea that I have to also help in cleaning the environment by taking all kinds of plastic except PVC.
With his experience as a factory hand from a plastic manufacturing company in Tema, he is able to combine 80% broken plastics and 20% sand to produce 12 inches square pavement blocks. With a current production capacity of 200 blocks a day, 230 direct and indirect jobs have already been created. These figures could increase with the availability of a hydraulic pressing machine.
There is really available market for the product, because we have people that come here who wants to buy, but because I've not started on a large scale, I don't want to put myself into it, and when they start demanding, I cannot provide. We have applied for the one district, one factory, and we are hoping to be selected. If we are selected, I can go in for those machines and scale up the production.
Based on the lifespan of the two main components used in the production, a block is able to last for 500 years and also cheaper than the usual pavement blocks.
Countries like India,
Nigeria, Sierra Leone and Cameroon all practice this kind of innovation. And some of these countries have been able to prove that the quality this kind of production has is 800% much better than the normal pavement blocks we usually see. And in Ghana, this has been certified by the Ghana Highway Authority. Government is willing to provide the necessary support to enable Nelson expand to other parts of the country and employ more youth.
We are going to provide him with that hydraulic press so that he can scale up this thing. And I hope that we'll be able to replicate this project in maybe all municipalities and districts so that the plastic in those districts can be recycled.
Like Nelson, others have come up with innovations from plastic waste geared towards solving the issue of managing waste in the country, but the situation still persists. Perhaps a place could be identified for all these innovators to expand in order to get the filth off the street. Kwabna Edu Jemfi, TV3.
And the Institute for Fiscal Studies, IFS, has commended government's plan to hedge the country's oil imports as in the right direction. At a media conference in Accra, Executive Director of the Institute, Professor Newman Kwadwo Kusi, noted the hedging will provide an insurance to mitigate the adverse impact of oil price volatility on the global market. Currently, Ghana produces nearly 200,000 barrels of oil per day. The country's share has risen to nearly 20% of this total output, which is sold on the international market. Ghana is, however, a net importer of oil, with the exception of last year when oil exports exceeded imports. Executive Director of the Institute for Fiscal Studies, Professor Newman Kwadwo Kusi, advised government to hedge both oil imports and exports.
We take insurance against what we call the strike price, would then be $50 per barrel of each import of crude oil. So what it means that if the price increases above $50, then the insurer will pay us the difference, just like we do for export.
Since 2015, the IFS has strongly advocated the need for Ghana to reintroduce the petroleum hedging program to cover both imports and exports, to save the country from losing millions of foreign exchange earnings. This will also provide stability to the national budget. Professor Newman Kusi therefore suggested government hedges the country's interests on public debt.
For every dollar I need to generate more cedis to pay that, then it means that the interest that I will pay, even though the interest rate has not changed, the amount of the interest that I will pay goes up. So that is what we insure against. So that if there's an exchange rate depreciation, then the exchange cost, addition to the interest rate, will be paid by, the insurer and such. And
IFS is of the view hedging of the country's oil imports will stabilize prices at the local pumps.
But if the price goes above $60, and if we have not hedged, and with the current automatic price adjustment mechanism, it means the increase will have to pass immediately to what? To the consumers. But if we have hedged, then government can allow consumers to pay the same price, because the difference is going to pay to us, to the government to support the lower prices that are being consumed.
And an energy analyst, Kojo Poku, has implored the president to deliver the true reflection of the state of the economy. Speaking ahead of the State of the Nation address to be delivered on Thursday, February 8th, Kojo Poku said the address should be devoid of policy intentions, but should rather review government's performance in the past year.
Kojo Poku called on the president to be circumspect in his State of the Nation address.
Whatever he says, we don't want to hear policy intent. If there are policies that are announced, we want ones that there's been thought processes gone through at the ministries. We want a situation where we are told of things that have been thought through. I think Ghanaians deserve to know what is happening and what they intend to do about it.
He said government must move away from political promises.
Let's not have a rerun of manifesto. I don't think it's necessary. Ghanaians have heard the campaign promises. We want to hear the state, as he speaks, at that point, what is the state of the nation.
Executive Secretary of the Chamber of Petroleum Consumers, Duncan Amoah, expects the president to touch on the downstream petroleum sector and government plans to strengthen petroleum establishment to be efficient.
The second key issue for us also has to do with strengthening the petroleum establishments, bust, TOR, ensuring that they are able to be as efficient as possible so as to give some relief to the average Ghanaian per their operations.
Well, meanwhile, the Chamber of Petroleum Consumers, COPEC, will embark on a demonstration to press home demands for government to scrap the special petroleum tax and other levies that were made cost to and other levies that have made the cost of petroleum products in the country shoot up. Now, according to the chamber, the SPT specifically has outlived its purpose and has now become a nuisance tax. Minister for Energy Boakye Agyarko says the government has taken note of the concerns Ghanaians are raising about the rising cost of petrol or diesel in the country and is therefore considering various options to deal with the trend. Boakye Agyarko blamed the situation on Saudi Arabia and Russia's decision to cut down their oil production of 5 million barrels per day by 20%. The decrease in production, the minister noted, is what has occasioned the crude oil price to shoot up to over $64 per barrel from $50 per barrel initially. In an interview with TV3 Business, Executive Secretary of the Chamber of Petroleum Consumers Ghana, Duncan Amoah, called on government to remove the special petroleum tax immediately since it has outlived its purpose.
One of the taxes that is dragging all of us into a difficult place, which is the special petroleum tax, today happens to be the largest single tax component on the price build-up. It was introduced at a time when world market prices had gone low to as low as $30 a barrel. Government said it needed revenue, and so that was introduced and pushed in there. At the time when prices have bounced back to 40, 50, 60, and even 70, that tax continues to remain there. We think that the tax must go immediately forthwith.
Duncan Amoah also indicated that COPEC and other stakeholders and political parties will embark on a demonstration on Wednesday, February 7, to press home their demands.
Wednesday, 7 a.m. in the morning, together with all the unions, General Petroleum and Chemical Workers Union, COPEC, committed drivers, concerned drivers, all other stakeholders will take to the streets to further express our misgiving about high fuel prices.
Right, so there's more news on our website. It's 3news.com. That will do for business tonight. My name is Nanikia Mensah-Brampa. There's more on News 360. Have a good evening. Welcome back to News 360. In entertainment news this evening, acclaimed Ghanaian musician and hitmaker Charles Kojo Fosu, known by his stage name as Daddy Lumba, has sued his lookalike Kwame Anoche, popularly known as Daddy Lumba Jr., for impersonating him. The multiple award winner singer has filed a lawsuit at the Accra High Court alleging that Kwame Anoche has been posing as his son and even impersonates him to get gifts from people. As reported by entertainmentgh.com, the complainant alleges that Anoche in 2010 appeared in a TV Africa produced reality show, Just Like You, as Lumba's lookalike and has since been professing to be his son. Kwame Anoche is also a musician. According to plaintiffs, since the name Daddy Lumba is exclusively associated with him within the music industry, the defendant's misrepresentation has affected his reputation, his business and goodwill.
So, veteran actress and TV personality Grace Omabo, also known as Mame Dokno, is the latest to react to claims by some feminists that women who cook for their husbands after a busy day at work can be compared to slaves. The revered actress and mother outrageously condemned such notion, saying she finds nothing wrong with a married woman cooking for her husband. She spoke to Johnny Hughes on New Day.
Marriage and love has been taken as nothing these days by the young men.
Some young women believe that cooking for your husband is slavery.
No, it is not. Hey, women, listen to me. If you think that the man loves you so much and he won't cook for the man, then your marriage won't last. It is not. You've got to cook for your husband. You've got to cook for your children. You've got to take good care of your home.
They say there is gender balance and feminism.
No, it is.
The men should do some too.
It is there, but you can do both. You can do both. I was, on stage working. I had a 10-piece band touring the whole of Ghana and the world, and I was married, and I was taking good care of my husband, my children, my home. That one there, if you are a woman and you feel say, because this and that, I'm not going to cook for my husband and he will still continue to love me, then you are playing.
Well, this debate is certainly not ending anytime soon. Let's take a look at what's happening on the international front.
South Africa's parliament has taken the extraordinary step of postponing President Jacob Zuma's State of the Nation address on Thursday as pressure grows on him to resign. The opposition had threatened to disrupt the speech, saying Mr. Zuma could no longer remain in office. The governing ANC has called a meeting of the party's top body for Wednesday to declare the president's future. Mr. Zuma, 75, has resisted calls to quit over corruption allegations. He was replaced as party leader by his deputy Cyril Ramaphosa, 65, in December. Earlier on Tuesday, the Nelson Mandela Foundation urged Mr. Zuma to step down. Media reports say a powerful 6.4 magnitude earthquake has toppled buildings in the Taiwanese city of Hualien. The tremor struck off the island's east coast. Photographs posted on social media showed extensive damage to roads and high-rise buildings. The reports say emergency services are working to free people who are trapped in a hotel that has partially collapsed.
Well, thank you for spending your time with us here on News 360. On behalf of the rest of the team, we're grateful. My name is Alfred Kamsi.
I'm Natalie Ford. We've got more news on our website, 3news.com, and News at 10 will simulcast on our sister station, 3FM 92.7. Next is our very special program here on TV3. Stay with us and have a pleasant evening. Thanks so much for watching. Enjoy Sadia.